E.B. White wrote about New York in 1949. Broadway has changed in aspect. It used to have a discernible bony structure, but the signs are so enormous now, the buildings and shops and hotels have largely disappeared under the neon lights and letters. An earlier poem by Charles Coleman Stoddard, entitled When Broadway Was a Country Road, reflects a nostalgia for the avenue as it once was in years past. No tailored dandies, trim and neat, no damsels of the latest craze, of form and fashion, no conceit, to catch the fancy or amaze. No buildings met the skyward gaze, nor myriad lights that nightly glowed, to set the midnight hours ablaze, when Broadway was a country road. Stoddard gives us an old Broadway, perhaps imagining it as it was in New Amsterdam, the Dutch colony that later became New York. The name of the road was anglicized to Broadway in 1899. Originating at the Battery at the southern tip of Manhattan, it runs 21.5 miles north through the Bronx to Yonkers at 262nd Street and beyond. It runs against the grid system laid out by the city commissioner Casimir Gorik in the 1790s. In 1811, when the grid system was officially implemented, Broadway was the only street to remain on the diagonal throughout the entirety of Manhattan. However, that's the only consistent thing about Broadway. Largely residential until the early 19th century, Broadway has had multiple names for its many roles. Ladies' Mile for the 19th century shopping district, the Theater District, with theaters gradually moving north until settling at 42nd Street in the early 20th century, the Canyon of Heroes, so known for the ticker-tape parades that happen in Lower Manhattan, and today, Silicon Alley, for the numerous internet and new media startup companies that have established themselves between Soho and 23rd Street. In 1829, a visitor from Liverpool commented on the irregularities of the buildings on Broadway. Not 100 years later, visitors no longer noticed the buildings, but were instead drawn to the lights of the Great White Way, describing them as fabulous glowworms and zigzag lightning strikes. Broadway is no longer a country road, but it continues to change. In 2009, the New York City Department of Transportation implemented a new program called Green Light for Midtown, which closed off Broadway at Herald Square and Times Square to auto traffic, creating safer intersections and more attractive public spaces. Broadway will no doubt continue to transform, but its same bony structure will remain the avenue that carries the spirit of New York.